Imagine you are sitting in a doctor's office, right? You've just had an X-ray taken of your chest.
Sounds pretty standard.
Yeah, totally standard. And the hospital is using this state-of-the-art AI to review your scan. In seconds, the AI outputs this perfect, highly detailed, absolutely correct diagnosis of your condition.
Which is what we all want, right? Fast, accurate results.
Exactly. It feels like an absolute medical miracle, like the future is finally here. But then you look a little closer at the AI's internal logs and you realize something completely mind-boggling.
Oh, this is the best part.
The AI gave you a perfect diagnosis, but it didn't actually know it was looking at an X-ray. It thought it was looking at an MRI of a knee.
Yeah, it's a wild realization when you actually see it happen.
Right.
You have this incredibly sophisticated system that arrived at the perfect destination. But when you look at the map it used to get there, the foundation is just entirely missing. The AI made what researchers actually call an evidence-free decision.
An evidence-free decision. And that fascinating, slightly terrifying mystery is exactly why we are here today. Welcome to this deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are exploring a really groundbreaking research paper. It's titled MedRCube, a multidimensional framework for fine-grained and in-depth evaluation of MLLMs in medical imaging.
Which is quite a mouthful, I know.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And just to clarify, MLLMs, for those wondering, are multimodal large language models.
Right.
These are those incredibly advanced AI systems that can process like both text and images at the exact same time, meaning they can read your medical chart and look at your scan simultaneously. And hospitals everywhere are just incredibly eager to deploy these as decision support tools.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone wants to use them. But our mission for this deep dive is to explore how we are currently testing these AI doctors, right? And why those existing tests are dangerously flawed.
Dangerously flawed.
Yeah, and what happens when researchers finally build a new framework that forces these models to actually show their work.
Because once you force an AI to explain its logic step by step, man, the results are deeply unsettling.
They really are.
I am so ready for this. But okay, before we get to the shocking results of how the AI actually performed, we kind of have to establish the baseline, right? We need to understand why the old way of testing medical AI was broken in the first place.
That's a great place to start.
Because, I mean, from an outside perspective, if an AI is passing a massive medical exam, you'd naturally think it's ready for the hospital.
You would definitely think that. It seems logical. But the paper points out a massive issue they call the evaluation disconnect.
The evaluation disconnect.
Exactly. Until now, AI models in medical imaging were largely graded on what they call a flat paradigm.
Okay, wait, I hear flat paradigm, and I'm picturing like a standard high school exam, like the SATs, where you just get one big number at the end of the day. Is that what we are doing to these advanced medical tools?
That is precisely the problem, yes.
Wow.
The AI is fed this massive data set covering all sorts of medical images from various hospitals. And at the end, it just gets a single course aggregate score.
Like a grade point average.
Right. You might read a splashy headline that says, new AI achieves 85% accuracy in medical imaging.
Which sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing. But in the real world of specialized clinical practice, that single aggregate score is virtually meaningless.
Because human medicine isn't just one big general practice. I mean, if I have a heart condition, I am going to a cardiologist, not a general practitioner.
Exactly. And that cardiologist does not care if an AI model has a high general score because it happens to be really good at reading brain MRIs or, detecting fractures in ankle x-rays.
They just care about the heart.
Right. The cardiologist needs rigorous validation on specific heart pathologies. A flat overall score offers absolutely no assurance to a specialist.
So an AI could get an 85% overall by scoring like 100% on broken bones and literally 0% on early-stage lung cancer.
Exactly. That average hides the danger. But even more critically, flat scores fail to assess the reliability of the model's reasoning.
Oh, meaning how it got the answer.
Right. They cannot distinguish between a valid clinical deduction and, well, hallucinated correctness.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Grading an AI with one overall flat score is like giving a medical student a B+ on their final exam, but, hiding the fact that they completely failed the heart surgery section and just aced the Band-Aid application.
That is a perfect analogy.
You would never let that student near an operating table, but with a flat score, you wouldn't even know they had this massive blind spot.
You wouldn't. Taking that medical student analogy a step further, in clinical diagnosis, which follows a really strict logical hierarchy masking critical failures with unrelated successes, is just totally unacceptable.
So what's the fix?
So the researchers proposed a total paradigm shift. They introduced MedRCube, which takes the evaluation out of that flat list and builds a multidimensional competency space.
A competency space. I actually love how that sounds. It's a highly structured, almost architectural way of grading the AI, isn't it?
It really is. It's a completely different way to look at it.
The researchers built this testing space across 3 distinct axes to really pin down exactly what the AI knows.
Think of it like a 3D cube. So the first axis is anatomical regions. They break the testing down into 5 specific areas.
Which are what? The heart, chest, lungs, breast, and brain.
Exactly. Those 5. Then the second axis is modalities. This is how the image was actually taken mechanically.
Right, so like, is it an X-ray or an MRI, a CT scan, or an ultrasound?
You got it. And it's that third axis where I think this framework gets truly revolutionary, the hierarchical tasks axis.
Yes, this is where they stop just asking the AI for a final answer, right?
Right. They structure the tasks as a cognitive ladder, mimicking how a real human radiologist is actually trained to think.
So how does the ladder work?
It starts at the very bottom with low-level perception. This is basic, fundamental recognition.
Like, just identifying what you're looking at?
Exactly. What modality is this? What imaging protocol was used to capture it? Then you move up a rung to mid-level semantics.
Mid-level, okay.
Yeah, so can the AI identify the specific organ in the image? Can it literally draw a bounding box around the exact region of interest where a lesion is located?
Which naturally leads to the top rung of the ladder.
High-level cognition.
Right.
This is where the AI actually synthesizes all that visual evidence to diagnose the abnormality, name the specific disease, or grade the severity of the condition.
So if you intersect these three axes, let's say the brain on the anatomy axis, an MRI on the modality axis, and disease diagnosis on the cognitive task axis, you get this one specific intersection point in that 3D space.
Yes, exactly.
And the paper calls this a competency voxel, which, for anyone wondering, a voxel is just a three-dimensional pixel like a block in Minecraft.
That's a great way to picture it.
By mapping the AI's performance into these specific competency voxels, the researchers can localize exactly what the AI knows and where its deficits are. It is basically the ultimate diagnostic tool for diagnosing the AI itself.
It really is. And armed with this incredibly precise 3D testing box, the researchers went ahead and benchmarked 33 different multimodal large language models.
33? That's a lot of models.
It's a huge undertaking. They wanted to see what happens when you put the world's most advanced systems under a microscope. They tested everything. Proprietary models from big tech companies, open source models, massive general purpose models, and even smaller models trained specifically on medical data. Wow. We are talking about over 7,600 samples, all meticulously curated from 36 different data sets spanning diverse demographics and diseases.
That is incredibly thorough. And looking at the results, the overall winner was a model called 𝗓𝗪32B, right? Which achieved a top score of 62.55%.
Right, that was the highest score.
But digging into the rankings, there was a really surprising result when comparing the underlying architecture of these models. Like, I'm looking at a small medically targeted model named 𝗓𝗪7B, and it actually beat a massive generalist model called intern-VL3.538B.
Yeah, and that finding completely disrupts the prevailing scaling laws of artificial intelligence.
Oh, so?
Well, there is a huge assumption in AI development that just pumping more parameters, which are essentially the artificial neural connections, and more raw data into a model will naturally make it smarter at everything.
Right, bigger is always better.
That's the assumption. And the B in those names stands for billions of parameters. So a 38 billion parameter model lost to a 7 billion parameter model.
That is wild. Let me guess why, though. Is it because a massive general purpose model is wasting its brain power learning how to write sonnets and, I don't know, identify pictures of celebrity chefs, while the smaller model is hyper-focused on nothing but clinical data?
That is the exact mechanism at play. Raw parameter expansion just spreads the model's capabilities too thin across non-medical domains.
Makes sense.
Targeted medical training, feeding it high-quality, peer-reviewed clinical data outweighs raw size. But, the benchmark revealed something far more concerning than just rankings.
Oh.
Yeah. When they looked at how these models performed across that cognitive ladder we just discussed, the results were totally counterintuitive.
Wait, hold on. I have to push back here. Because if I'm reading this right, the AI is successfully diagnosing complex diseases at the top of the ladder, but it's failing the basic perception tasks at the bottom.
That's exactly what the data shows.
But how could it possibly spot a tumor if it doesn't even know what organ it's looking at? That defies logic. Is the test broken, or is the AI cheating?
It is a phenomenal question.
Yeah.
And it points to a phenomenon the researchers termed foundational blindness.
Foundational blindness, okay?
Remember that bottom rung, low-level perception?
Yeah.
These are trivial prerequisites for a human radiologist.
Yeah.
But the models lack robust mastery of these basic perceptual primitives.
Give me an example of what they're missing.
Okay, for example, there is a task called imaging protocol recognition. In an MRI, a doctor instantly knows if they're looking at a T1 sequence or a T2 sequence.
What's the difference?
So T1 highlights fat structures, making them look bright, while T2 highlights water and fluid, which is crucial for spotting inflammation or edema.
Got it.
If you don't know which one you're looking at, you're essentially reading a map without knowing the legend.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how did the AI models do on distinguishing something that fundamental?
Most models scored an abysmal 20% to 40% on this task.
Are you kidding? 20 to 40%? That's not just a failing grade. That is worse than flipping a coin in some cases.
It is essentially random guessing. Human radiologists have near-perfect accuracy on view recognition, but even the strongest open-source AI models only hit about 62%.
That is terrifying.
They have severe blind spots in the very foundations of medical observation. And the way these models process information creates other bizarre anomalies too. Well, the researchers ran a correlation analysis to see if being good at analyzing one body part meant the AI could apply those skills to another.
Okay.
What they found was something they named the isolated island of the brain.
Oh, I saw this in the notes and it completely blew my mind. So if a model is good at analyzing a chest x-ray, the skills generally transfer over to analyzing a lung x-ray, right?
Yes, that makes intuitive sense.
But the brain tasks are profoundly isolated.
They are completely walled off.
Yeah.
The correlation between performance on brain tasks and other body parts was practically non-existent.
That's weird enough.
But the real shocker is that performance on a brain task had an incredibly low correlation with other brain tasks.
Wait, what? So if an AI is an absolute genius at finding a tumor in a brain MRI, it might be completely useless at identifying a hemorrhage in a brain CT scan.
Exactly.
Why would that happen? It's the exact same organ.
Because the AI doesn't actually know what a brain is in the way you and I do. It doesn't understand the 3D biological reality of human head.
So what is it seeing?
It only sees a grid of pixel values. A CT scan measures tissue density using X-ray beams, which makes bone look bright white and blood show up clearly.
Right.
But an MRI uses magnetic resonance to measure water content in soft tissues. To the AI, the pixel patterns of a brain CT and a brain MRI look as fundamentally different as a picture of a bicycle and a picture of a storm cloud.
Wow.
Because it lacks a cohesive underlying understanding of human anatomy, it can't generalize. It just relies on highly fragmented, task-specific memorization.
That is wild. It's literally just memorizing pixel distributions, which honestly brings us to the most alarming question of this entire deep dive.
Let's hear it.
If we have this strange gap where an AI fails basic perception, like telling a T1 from a T2 MRI, and it treats different brain scans like completely unrelated objects, how on earth is it managing to get the final high-level diagnosis right?
That is the big question.
Are these models actually reasoning, or are they just getting really, really lucky?
That is the exact question the researchers needed to answer, because it strikes at the core of clinical credibility.
So how did they test that?
To figure this out, they built a special subset within the MedRCube framework. They created 900 items specifically designed to test reasoning consistency.
But how do you mathematically test if an AI is being consistent?
You ask it two questions about the exact same image.
Okay.
First, you ask a low-level prerequisite question. Let's say you show it a scan and ask, what organ is this?
Right. Simple enough.
Then you ask a high-level cognitive question about that very same image, like, what is the severity of the disease shown here?
Oh, I see. So what does this all mean? It's exactly like watching a kid taking a complex math test.
Yeah, exactly.
They write down the correct final answer at the bottom of the page, but when you look at their scratch paper, the underlying math formula is completely gibberish. They didn't actually solve the problem. They just guessed the final number.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. In clinical practice, a diagnosis must be grounded in visual evidence. If you can't verify the organ, you cannot medically diagnose the disease. Period. The researchers calculated two metrics to measure this: a rationality score and a shortcut probability.
Shortcut probability.
Yeah. And they discovered that some models, including ones specifically fine-tuned for medical domains, had luck rates exceeding 60%.
Exceeding 60%. If you are listening to this and thinking, I wouldn't trust a human doctor who just guesses the diagnosis 60% of the time without looking at the chart, you are exactly right.
It's terrifying.
But we are handing the keys over to algorithms that are doing exactly that. 60% of their correct high-level diagnoses were completely ungrounded guesses where they failed the basic prerequisite question.
It's deeply concerning. But the paper's most explosive finding, the thing that really shifts how we need to think about AI development, is a phenomenon they call the paradox of specialization.
Okay, let's get into the paradox of specialization, because intuitively I would assume that as AI models get smarter and their overall accuracy scores go up, they would rely less on guessing.
You would hope so.
You'd expect them to get better at the basics. Like, a senior doctor guesses a lot less than a first-year medical student.
The researchers expected the exact same thing. They call that the ideal evolution hypothesis.
Ideal evolution.
Right. It's the idea that better models naturally develop stronger perceptual grounding and more valid reasoning chains.
But I'm guessing that's not what happened.
Not at all. The data from MedRCube shows the exact opposite. It shows an opportunistic evolution.
Opportunistic?
Yes. The link between guessing and high scores wasn't just a slight trend. It was a massive, undeniable correlation. As the model scored higher on the complex diagnostic tasks, their shortcut probability actually went up.
Wait, I need to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. The more accurate the model appears to be at diagnosing diseases on paper, the more likely it is to be using a completely ungrounded shortcut.
Yes. The stronger MLLMs are not strictly becoming better observers. They are becoming better gamblers.
But how does an AI gamble? I mean, what is it actually doing if it's not looking at the disease?
Think about a detective who solves a case, not by looking at the evidence, but by looking at the dust on the evidence folder.
Okay.
The AI exploits statistical patterns in the training data to jump straight to the high-level answer. For instance, an AI might notice that images coming from a specific portable X-ray machine, which happens to have a slightly darker contrast, are almost always taken in the severe trauma ward.
Oh my God.
Right. Instead of looking at your lungs for pneumonia, the AI just recognizes the dark contrast of that specific machine and automatically outputs severe disease.
So it's not even looking at the lungs.
No. It guesses based on the background lighting or a hospital watermark or the specific angle of the image.
They are hacking the test. They are just finding the path of least resistance to output the correct string of text.
Exactly, because the models are rewarded purely for the final output. But in medicine, the path matters just as much as the destination. A model that reaches a correct diagnosis by recognizing a hospital's watermark rather than identifying the tumor is making an evidence-free decision. And as the authors of the study heavily emphasize, evidence-free decisions are strictly inadmissible in rigorous clinical practice.
This is huge. If you or a loved one are ever in a hospital where an AI is being deployed as a decision support tool, this is exactly why you need to care about how these systems are evaluated.
Absolutely, it affects all of us.
A high accuracy score on a spec sheet, that flat paradigm metric, doesn't mean the AI actually sees what a human doctor sees. It might just be making a highly calculated opportunistic gamble.
That's the reality of it.
The AI could be acing the final diagnosis while being completely blind to the foundational reality of the image.
Which leaves us with a profound structural challenge for the future of artificial intelligence in healthcare.
What's the next step then?
Well, right now, our training algorithms prioritize efficiency and correct end results over everything else. But if our current methods naturally incentivize these models to become better gamblers rather than true thinkers, we have a fundamental flaw in the architecture.
So we have to change the rewards.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to redesign the reward systems of artificial intelligence so that it values the process of human-like reasoning, verifying the organ, checking the modality, finding the lesion, just as much as it values getting the final answer right.
Because right now, until we adopt frameworks like MedRCube, that AI reviewing your chest x-ray might be giving you a perfect diagnosis, or rather, a perfect sounding diagnosis, without even knowing it's looking at a chest x-ray.
It's a scary thought.
It really is. Something to think about the next time you hear a headline about AI replacing doctors. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.